بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah, hopefully everything is working, the sound is okay. Inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah, so this is a live Q&A for the month of Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala. We've had a number of questions. Inshallah, you can also send in your questions whilst the recording is going on. Let me quickly share this to my page. Okay, that's working, alhamdulillah. Okay, let me share this to my page. Alhamdulillah. Oops. Okay, no worries. I can't share it. Okay, no worries, inshallah. Okay, now it's come up. Okay, no worries. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman, we'll start inshallah ta'ala. Just something interesting anyway I came across today. Today, I bought these from B&M. Okay, half price, alhamdulillah. I'm just looking to see if they're suitable for vegetarians. There's nothing on here that says that they're suitable for vegetarians. Assalamu alaikum, Baba, mashallah. So I'm thinking, what is it? Why are they not suitable for vegetarians? So either it's the whey powder, which it says is from milk, but maybe not, Allahu alam, or the shellac that is in it. But in any case, but with Abu Hanifa, both of these two will be fine. So even though it doesn't say they're suitable for vegetarians, they're still halal. So not everything that is not suitable for vegetarians doesn't necessarily mean that it's prohibited for us to eat. Anyway, I want to do a poll as well, inshallah. There's a lot of discussion about unity in relation to this Ramadan. There's no carmine in it. There's no E120 in it whatsoever. All the colorings are from fruit and vegetable extracts. So Allahu alam. I just want to do a little poll, inshallah. You can put your comments here. There's a lot of discussion about unity in terms of Ramadan, as it is every year. Do you think that unity in relation to the beginning date for Ramadan and also the date for Eid, do you think that unity is important, or do you think that it's okay that we have different Eids? Do you think that ulama should be doing more to unify the dates for Ramadan and Eid here in the UK. So let's get some response from you guys, inshallah. So the first question here is, the hot question that everybody wants to know: when does Ramadan start? When does Ramadan start? Ramadan starts the sighting of the new moon for Ramadan, of course. And if the new moon isn't sighted, then when 30 days have passed of Sha'ban, then obviously the next day will be Ramadan. This issue is out of our hands, really. The beginning date of Ramadan and the end date of Ramadan. If we were in a Muslim country, for example, and the leader of that country said Ramadan is tomorrow, even though an alim or a jurist might disagree with that leader, he still has to follow what that leader says. Here in the UK, we don't have any leader. So this problem is a leadership issue. It's not a fiqh issue. It's not a fiqh issue of jurisprudence or law or the legality. Because you can find the opinions for the establishing of Ramadan. You can find 4 or 5 opinions in each school of law. Okay, you'll find an opinion for global sighting, local sighting, using calculations, not using calculations, using calculations to reject sightings, using calculations to establish. All of these opinions, you'll find it in the books of law. So the issue is not an issue of fiqh, because there's a lot of flexibility around the issue. Do we only accept a large group of witnesses, like Abu Hanifa says, or 2 people enough? Is 1 person enough? All of these are differences of opinion. So there's a lot of flexibility actually in relation to the fiqh of it all. The problem we have is unity and leadership. Okay, but because we don't have unity between Muslims here in the UK, and we don't have any proper leadership, we're always going to have this difference of opinion about the beginning of Ramadan and the date for Eid. And that's something we're probably just going to have to live with for a long time, until this issue is sorted out here in the UK. It may never be sorted. Ramadan, in terms of this Ramadan, then the moon is visible in numerous countries around the world. In Saudi Arabia, it is visible with the aid of telescope. That's what they use in Saudi Arabia. They have different points around the kingdom in Saudi Arabia, and they use very powerful telescopes as well. So they'll go out to these different points all around the country, and wherever the moon is sighted in any one of those points, they'll have like a group of people that will look through that telescope, and then they'll go to the judge in that the region of Saudi Arabia, and from then on they'll establish the beginning date of Ramadan. So it looks like generally that in most places the Ramadan will begin tonight, inshallah ta'ala, but we never know. If vegetarian food products, in terms of vegetarian food products or vegan food products, they should always be halal, unless they have things like wine in them. They'll always be halal for us to eat. So alhamdulillah, it's made life a lot easier actually in the UK that we have the vegetarian society and the labelling of that. So it makes things, other countries, European countries, they don't have that, but here in the UK we do, so it makes it a lot easier. In terms of prohibition of insects, the Quran mentions وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْكُمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits vile and filthy things for you. So many ulama, they said that insects are prohibited to eat, whereas the Maliki opinion is that insects are halal as long as they are killed with the intention of consumption. So with insects, there's more leeway in the Maliki school, and locusts are an exception to the rule due to the hadith of the Messenger of Allah, permissibility of eating locusts. So when does Ramadan start? We've discussed that. Inshallah, it should be tonight for everybody, hopefully. Follow us closest, this issue as well. They'll say, should we follow the closest Muslim country if we can't see it here? They never ever go out to sight the moon here anyway. So they don't know why some ulama, they say that because they never bother to even look for the new moon. And the closest Muslim country to us is not Morocco, it's actually Algeria. It's the closest Muslim country to the UK. So Allahu A'lam, it's flawed. If you're going to follow one Muslim country, then another Muslim country's witnessing of the new moon should be fine. So the question here is, if a person takes a medicine or general supplements for health reasons during the permitted times of when the fast is open, but it leaves a strong aftertaste in the mouth afterwards when the fast closes, does this invalidate the fast? So this is a good question. The scholars actually discussed this exact masala here, and they said no, it doesn't break the fast if somebody has medicine before the time of the beginning of the fast, and even if it leaves a strong taste in the back of one's throat, that's not a problem. There's no problem. And the Messenger of Allah used to wear kohol as well. Kohol is worn at night, and they would wear it for medicinal purposes actually. So kohol, you actually place it inside the eye. It actually goes on the inner part of the eye. Some people put it on the outer. Women do anyway, like it's eyeliner. But for men, they use it for medicinal purposes. And the Prophet ﷺ would use it for medicinal purposes and put it just inside the eye before going to sleep. So sometimes you can wake up and you might find the taste of that in the back of your throat. That's not a problem. None of that will invalidate the fast. So the next question is about brushing teeth while fasting, and with brush and even flavoured toothpaste. So what invalidates the fast is the ingestion of some type of substance into the inner cavity. With brushing your teeth, even if toothpaste is used, even if it has a flavour, as long as you don't swallow that toothpaste, it will not invalidate the fast. Okay. However, the ulama said that this is disliked to taste things when there's no need to. So if there's no need for you to taste something whilst you're fasting, then it will be considered to be disliked. Okay, but tasting something, that does not invalidate the fast. The best practice is to use toothpaste at suhoor time, sahri time, before you start the fast. And when you open your fast, use toothpaste at those times. And throughout the day, you can use a dry toothbrush to clean your teeth. If there's a real need to use toothpaste, some people, they have meetings and important meetings, and the breath might start to smell. If there's a real need, like they say, a woman, she's cooking, she might be cooking food and she needs to taste the food in order to make sure it's right, because her husband, might get angry, if the food isn't correct, or she might have a child that's she's weaning, and she might need to chew some of that food, to give to that baby or that child. Here it won't be considered as makruh. So here it won't be considered as disliked, because there's a good reason for them to do that. The next question is, can a husband and wife hold hands or kiss during fasting? He says, I recently got married and I don't want to spoil my fast. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Bilal Abu Hamza. MashaAllah. So the question is, can a husband and wife hold hands or kiss during fasting? The person recently got married, he doesn't want to spoil his fast. So here, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that Aisha says that the Prophet ﷺ would kiss one of his wives whilst he was fasting. And then the student says, was it you? She says, yes, it was me. She admits later on that it was her. But she doesn't mention herself. She just says he used to kiss some of his wives, when he was fasting. And who he had more self-control than the Messenger of Allah ﷺ? No, nobody. So the ulama said, if the person feels safe, either that physical touching or kissing, it won't lead. Touching hands, that shouldn't be an issue. But kissing, if the person feels safe that it's not going to lead to other things that may cause his fast to be ruined, then that's fine for them to do. But if the person fears that it will lead to other things, other sexual conduct, which may cause his fast to be invalid, then that will be disliked for him to kiss his wife during the fast. However, and we should make a note here that the type of kissing here is the kissing where there's no exchange of saliva. Okay, so the French kiss, they call it French kissing. Okay, where there's exchange of saliva. If the person swallows that saliva, then that will invalidate their fast. No. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Masa al khair. Abdurrahman, it's not evening here. Somebody's wrote good evening. Maybe he's in the Arab world. So it's evening already where he is. Have they sighted the moon, Abdurrahman, yet or not? So, assalamu alaikum. If you struggle with keeping the long fasts, the question is because of your health. Some days due regular chronic migraine. So the person gets chronic migraine, which is severe. Fibromyalgia rheumatica, sometimes dips in blood pressure and blood sugar levels due to being a pre-diabetic. Some days can manage to fast. So is it acceptable to pay fidya with intention to fast throughout Ramadan, but have paid fidya to cover any days you are not well enough? A lot of people, they ask about the fidya, and there seems to be confusion about the fidya. Okay, so the Quran says, those that are unable to fast, then there's a fidya of this feeding of a poor person for each fast. But this fidya is for those who are never ever going to be able to make up that fast. If you're ill, Allah says, وَإِنْ كَانَتْ مَرِيدًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَامٍ أُخَرٍ. If a person is ill or on a journey, then he needs to make up that fast at a later date. Okay, so if you're ill
and the fasts are long because you're in the summer months as well here in the UK. If you're ill, as soon as you're well enough and you have the time to make up that fast, it doesn't need to be immediately, but you need to make up that fast. Okay, if you're healthy enough at some point in the future to make up that fast, then it's obligatory for you to just make up that fast that you missed due to illness or due to travel. If someone has a chronic illness like diabetes or extremely old age, okay, where there's no hope for that person whatsoever of being able to fast until the day they die. So there's never ever going to be able to fast. Here, in this situation, you can pay the vidya. In this situation, you can pay this vidya. He's asking me to speak to him in Arabic language. ممكن أتكلم بك باللغة العربية. أنا سألتك هل رؤي الهلال في بلدك؟ okay. لكن هذا درس للمتكلمين باللغة الإنجليزية. So the fidya, it's the same amount that we pay for zakat al-fitr on Eid or after Eid. That zakat al-fitr, it can be paid actually at the beginning of Ramadan. You don't need to wait to pay sadaqat al-fitr to the day of Eid. You can pay it immediately as soon as Ramadan begins. That's fine for you to pay zakat al-fitr. So the fidya is the same amount. Oh, he said he's from Pakistan. MashaAllah. He knows Arabic. هل رؤي الهلال في Pakistan? So the fidya is the same amount. Usually it's 2 or 3 pounds or whatever. And that fidya needs to go to individual poor people. So if somebody has diabetes, for example, so back to the question anyway, somebody's struggling, they know they're going to get ill. So when are we exempt from fasting? Either out of experience, you know that if you fast, you're going to become ill because of that fast. Or a reliable Muslim doctor informed you that if you fast, it will cause harm to you or delay your recovery, and they advise you against fasting. So here, you have the dispensation of not fasting. And really, if you know with, reasonable doubt that this fast is going to cause me harm, then you shouldn't be fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to cause harm to yourself. And the verses that speak about fasting in the Quran, when they speak about the person who is traveling or ill to make up on the fast on a later date, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then follows it up and says, Inna Allah yuridu bikum al-yus wa la yuridu bikum al-us. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants ease for you, He doesn't want difficulty for you. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want us to harm ourselves. When we're fasting, that's not the purpose of the fast. Some people, they feel very guilty. Ramadan is a taboo, and we don't want to miss the fast of Ramadan and whatnot. So there's a lot of guilt surrounding it. One sister, she came to me, she says, every time I fast in Ramadan, I get really ill to the point where she actually gets hospitalized because of the fast. So it's caused real harm to her. So, I told her that not to fast. It's not permitted for her to do that to herself and fast in that situation. And then she says, I feel so guilty because, I'm missing Ramadan and so on and so on. But the purpose is not to, like I said, to harm ourselves in the fast. So if you're ill, if you know you're going to get a migraine, severe migraine, or it actually occurs whilst you're fasting, and it's because of the fast, then it's permitted for you to break that fast and make up that fast on another day. Likewise, if you're, working as well in the Hanafi school, they mentioned if you're working and you feel that you're not going to be able to fill your duties at work properly because of the fast, then there's a dispensation as well for you not to keep that fast and make it up at a later date. So next question is, can one use an inhaler whilst fasting? So there are different types of inhalers. There's a pump, assume he's speaking about the normal pump inhaler that is used for asthma. Here, the ulama, we see they differed regards to the inhaler. So we find some ulama, they say that it invalidates the fast, and some ulama say no, it doesn't invalidate the fast. So the issue with the inhaler, what we need to do more research around the inhaler. Does the substance, the medicine in the inhaler, does it only enter into the lungs? If it just goes into your lungs, then it wouldn't be a problem. Or if some of that medicine from the inhaler ingested down into the gastrointestinal tract, if it is, then it would break the fast. Okay, but if the medicine from that inhaler just remains in the lungs, then we can say that it doesn't invalidate the fast. So you find difference of opinion about the inhaler. I don't know the answer to that. Wallahu a'lam. So the question is, what if I read Isha namaz and miss Taraweeh? This is a question that's been asked as well. Should we be attending Taraweeh prayers in Ramadan? As some say, it's not fard, and also should it be 8 or 20? So with Taraweeh, it's not a fard prayer. As we know, there's only 5 fard prayers that have been made obligatory upon us to do. So the ulama, they're in agreement that Taraweeh is sunnah. It's an emphasized sunnah. So it's encouraged for us to pray Taraweeh prayers. If a person prays them, then they'll be rewarded for them. If a person doesn't pray Taraweeh prayer, then there'll be no sin upon them for missing Taraweeh prayers. The voluntary prayers. However, we should try to make an effort, definitely, to attend Taraweeh prayers for men and women. If you can't do them in the masjid, you can do them at home as well. If they're too long in the masjid, or the imam is just racing through the Quran, and there's no khushu, there's no feeling of humility in the prayer, then it's okay to pray Taraweeh at home as well. Even there's not an issue. And even the jurists, they mentioned that in our times, these are some of these jurists from the 6th century after Hijrah, 7th century after Hijrah. They're saying in our times it is not permitted for the imam to read the khatam of the Quran in Taraweeh, because it puts people off coming to the prayer. So the ulama said, if it puts people off coming to the prayer, you doing a khatam, then the imam is not to read a khatam of the Quran in Taraweeh. Rather, you should just read short surahs from Juz Amma. So some masajid and some places, they have made that decision and they've adopted that approach. So they read from Wadduha to Surah An-Nas, and they do that every night through the month of Ramadan in Taraweeh. And the blessing from that is that people who attend every Taraweeh prayer, not only is it short and easy for people to attend, but the people who attend those Taraweeh prayers, they actually memorize those surahs. they end up memorizing those surahs by the end of Ramadan. So that's what the ulama have said to do. I don't put pressure on people by reading a khatam of the Quran. Should it be 8 or should it be 20? So the four schools of law, they all said that Taraweeh is 20 units of prayer. Ibn Humam from the Hanafi school, he said 8 units is sunnah and 20 units is recommended. But that's his own like anomalous opinion, really. And all the other jurists of the Hanafi school, they said 20 units of Taraweeh is sunnah mu'akkada. And the reason why is because when Umar radiallahu anhu gathered the companions in Medina to re-establish the Taraweeh prayers, they agreed upon 20 units of prayer. None of the companions objected. None of the companions ever spoke out and said, no, it's not 20. What are you doing? We should be praying 8 instead. All of them, they agreed. So it's like a silent consensus of the companions that Taraweeh is 20 units of prayer. However, we shouldn't, argue with people about these issues, because it is only a voluntary prayer. It's a sunnah prayer. It's not obligatory upon people to do. So if people want to do 8, that's fine. People want to do 12, that's up to them. If people want to do 36 units, some places they do Taraweeh twice in the night. So they go to one masjid, perform Taraweeh, they go to another masjid, they'll perform Taraweeh there, or there's a later Taraweeh. Sometimes 3 times. I've seen myself in the Arab world, people from the common public, people are selling groceries on the side of the street, praying 60 units of Taraweeh prayer. So they go from one mosque to the next one to the next one, and they'll repeat the Taraweeh. So the more you pray, that's better for you. I'd say it's only for your own benefit. Maybe we shouldn't get into argumentations about should a person be praying 8 or 20 or whatever. Waqari says some people opt to just pay the needy and not to fast. What advice would you give them to ensure they keep the fast? Okay, so paying the needy is not an option unless you are totally unable to fast throughout your entire life. Okay, so they really, there's no excuse for this. Allah says, Kutiba alaykum as-siyam, fasting is made obligatory upon you. So they should make an effort. If they find that it's too long, okay, or they've tried it and they got ill, then they can make them up at shorter days. But paying the needy is not a replacement for fasting. So Maria is asking, can I have my blood test while fasting? So having blood tests, that's fine. Fasting will be invalidated from what enters into the body. So withdrawing blood, having your blood tested, that's not a problem whatsoever. Okay. Somebody's saying you haven't answered my question. What question was it? Shaz. Which question was it? Oh yes. He's going to come on to the finishing the Quran, inshallah ta'ala, soon. It's on the list of questions. So Roxanne, she's asking, Salam Sheikh, what if a woman starts her menses halfway through her fast? Can she continue to fast, or does she need to break her fast? So to be eligible to fast, a woman needs to be free of her menses. She needs to be free of menstruation to be eligible to fast. So if her period starts halfway through the fast, then she should not continue fasting. It's actually prohibited for to fast in that state. So a menses starts halfway through the fast, you stop fasting and break a fast and take that dispensation. So the question here is, if I have a mortgage to pay off, do I still need to pay zakah? And who is eligible for zakah? So, questions about zakah arise at this time because people think that the time for paying zakah is actually Ramadan, even though it's not, which is another topic. The time for paying zakah is calculated from when you reach the threshold for zakah, which is 85 grams of gold, maybe something like £2,500. So once you reach that threshold, more than your debts and needs, your immediate needs, then you need to record that date. It might be the 15th of Sha'ban, for example. You need to record that date. Then you need to wait a year to see if you're still over that threshold. So your date, everybody's date for zakat is going to be different to the other person's. But some people think that you do it in Ramadan. In any case, so the question is, if I have a mortgage to pay off, do I still need to pay zakah? So with a mortgage, it's a debt. It's still a debt. The question is, can we deduct the entire mortgage from one's assets as a debt, or do we deduct the amount that has been requested for that entire year? Or another opinion that's been mentioned is, do we deduct the amount that has been requested for that month only? So these are all different opinions. So the ulama said, the opinion that all of it will be deducted. If a person's, has got a mortgage, then, if you say all of the debt is going to be deducted, then they may never ever pay zakah. It'd be difficult for them to pay zakat now. So you'll find that most ulama, that they go with the other two opinions. Either we deduct the amount that has been requested for that year. And the thing is, it's not a debt that has been requested to be paid off all at once as well. So they said either we deduct the amount that is requested for that year, which seems to be more correct, or we deduct the amount that has been requested for that monthly payment for the mortgage. But depending on your assets, you need to calculate your assets, deduct all your debts to see if you're eligible for zakah. Who is eligible for zakah? The 8 categories that have been mentioned in the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah of those who are eligible for zakah. So the poor and the needy, the fuqara, the masakin. The poor person is the one who his possessions, they come up to less than the amount of the nisab. Okay, the needy, the miskin, is the one who he just has enough to get by day to day. Okay, and that's permitted for that person to actually beg as well, whereas the poor person is not allowed to beg if he has some wealth. Then there are those who are in debt. Okay, and that debt takes them below the nisab, so they can be given some of the zakah. There are those that are working to distribute the zakah. So the organizations distributing zakah, they can be actually paid a wage from the zakah, so they can be given zakah themselves. Then there are fi sabilillah, Allah says, those that are what's called fi sabilillah, which has been defined as those of soldiers that are cut off from their troops, and they need to use some of the zakat to catch up with their troops. And there's a traveller. So the traveller as well, he may be wealthy, but he's cut off from his wealth, so he's given enough money to return back to his original country. And there are fi riqab, Allah says, those slaves. So slaves that ever have a contract with their master, a contract of freedom. So they would have a contract. You pay me a certain amount, and you'll be released. So they can be given some of the zakat. Doesn't exist in our day and age. And the last one is one of debate, which is mu'allafatul qulub. So to appease the hearts. So some new Muslims can be given some of the zakat as well, how to strengthen their iman. Whereas some schools, they say it doesn't apply anymore. Other schools, they said it's just on a political level. So it's only for the head of state to decide. So there's a lot of discussion around that category. So some questions here. I'm going to get to your question, Shaz. I'm not avoiding your question. It's going to come up soon, inshallah ta'ala. So another question, don't know if it's been asked before. Brushing your teeth, that's been asked already. So to the beginning of the video, you can look at that. Bilal is asking, some Malikis say that gelatine in small food products are halal. Can you please explain this? Does the gelatine lose its essence when mixed with all the different chemicals? Not only Malikis, but Hanafis as well. They said that gelatine is permissible. The reason is they have a principle called istihala. So istihala is when one thing changes from one substance to another substance. So that change. So they give examples of wine turning into vinegar. Okay, wine is impure. Maybe when it gets converted into vinegar, it becomes halal. Okay, even before wine, it was something that was pure and halal. Grape, it was grape juice, but now it becomes wine. It becomes prohibited. Or another example is musk of a deer. Okay, when it's converted into that musk pod and used for fragrance, it becomes permissible. So they say even a pig, even if it's a pig, if it undergoes change or it turns into salt, then it becomes permissible and halal. Okay, so that's what where this ruling comes from. The debate will be, does gelatine undergo that particular change or not? Those ulama who consider that gelatine has undergone that change, and they have said that it's lawful. And those ulama that don't, they will say that it's unlawful. Okay, unless they're of the Shafi or Hanbali schools, who don't have that principle of istihala. So Rahil Mumtaz, Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. He says there are many different times for when the fast starts. Are we allowed to use them? Can we use one calendar for the first part of Ramadan and use a different calendar for the latter part of Ramadan? So there are different times for the beginning of Ramadan, because we have what's called perpetual twilight here in the summer months in the UK. So this perpetual twilight, the problem is that white twilight on the horizon. This is what signifies the beginning of Fajr. But if the white twilight remains all night, so maybe you've seen in the summer, there's still some brightness on the horizon. It doesn't get totally dark here in the UK in those summer months. From around the end of May to the middle of August, you'll see that phenomena occurring. So the ulama, they are compelled to now estimate the time of Fajr, okay, or use a different opinion about when the time of Fajr begins. So that's why we find different times, different opinions about when the fast starts. Most of these just due to the ijtihadat of the ulama. So one opinion isn't really more correct than the other. You can say they're all fine to use. So I don't see any issue in using any of them. However, if you know, the precaution is the best way. Precaution is always the best option. If you can, then end your fast. Oh, sorry, or begin your fast at the earliest time. If you begin your fast at the earliest time, then you've covered all of those opinions. Okay, and then you start your prayer a bit later. If you cover all of those opinions, then you're safe in your religion. You're safeguarding your religion. So you're using one calendar first part of Ramadan, different one for the latter part of Ramadan. You know, that's fine as well, because they're all opinions amongst the ulama and the jurists. So another question is, some sisters asked, many products are showing beef gelatin rather than pork gelatin. Can we have these products with beef gelatin in them? So it doesn't matter whether it's beef gelatin or pork gelatin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited all of these categories in the Quran. So Allah says, Hurimat alaykum al-mayta. First thing Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, in the verse of prohibition of certain animals, that mayta is prohibited. And mayta is any animal that has not been slaughtered according to the Sharia. So that was, you know, prohibited for us to eat, and impure, just like lahm khinzir, the Quran says, just like pork, just like the flesh of swine. There's no difference between the two. It's just that we're sensitive around. We have sensitivities around pork because of our upbringing. But there's no difference between pork gelatin and beef gelatin with us, unless obviously it's halal. The cow has been slaughtered in a halal manner. So they're both the same in relation to prohibition and impurity. If they undergo change, you know, then they will be permissible in the Hanafi and Maliki schools. If not, then they will be prohibited. So the question is, when is the correct age to fast? So the ulama are pretty much in agreement that the obligation of fasting, the condition of its obligation, like other acts of worship, is that a person reaches the age of maturity. So the person reaches the age of puberty. You know, so we just look for the signs of puberty, whether it's a girl or boy. It's about looking for those signs of puberty. Maybe that he grows facial hair, or his voice breaks, or pubic hair grows, etc. I said these are signs of puberty, and that's when it becomes obligatory upon the person to fast. However, it's good to get children into the habit of fasting. Okay, so we should encourage our children as well to grow into the habit of fasting. What they do in some places is they do half. They get the children to do half a fast. Sometimes my children, I get them to do half of the day. Just to give them a sense of fasting. Okay, and then when they're older, if they're able to, sometimes they reach the age of puberty, but their bodies are still young, immature and weak, and they're not really able to do the full fast, especially in the UK this time of year. The fasts are very long, 18 hours or 19 hours, so they might not still be physically able to fast. But the obligatory age is the age of maturity. So another question: if a wife and husband, they both work, who should pay the zakah? The husband for both of them, or should they be paying individually? So here, they should be paying individually. Okay, the husband's working, the wife's working. Each one of them has their own wealth. Each one of them pays zakah individually. Okay, just like the prayer, everybody has an individual obligation to pray, and the fasting as well, and going on Hajj. All of these are individual obligation. So zakat is an individual obligation. So they should be paying individually. Okay, so they should calculate to see if they are eligible to pay zakat. It might be that one of them doesn't go over the threshold of zakat. They should try to calculate it properly. But they should sit down with a scholar and calculate the zakat properly. M&Ms, the issue with M&Ms is the red ones, the red colouring. So the red M&Ms, they have what's called carmine in them, which is labelled as E120 sometimes. So that red colouring, it comes from a beetle called the cochineal beetle. So this is a problem. Again, has it undergone change? It needs to investigate. Investigation needs to be done. If it undergoes change, then it will be halal in the Hanafi and Maliki schools, and if not, then it will be prohibited by agreement. So Bilal's asking, how can we be sure that change is enough for the product to be halal? So the principle regarding change is the two aspects. Has it changed into another substance that we're actually calling it something else? So the name has to change. So we're calling it something different. Okay, it used to be wine, but now we're calling it vinegar. Okay, and also the qualities need to change. So it used to be intoxicating wine, now it's not intoxicating, it's vinegar. Okay, so we're looking for the change of name of the thing and the change in its qualities as well. Okay, once that happens, then that's sufficient for us to say that this is now halal for us to consume. The Malikis, they mention more details, so they speak about the change of colour, taste and smell. They speak about those things. One example the ulama give as well is, for example, that carrion meat turns to ashes, so the fingers now turn to ashes, now becomes pure. So that's a principle in relation to change. Yeah, in relation to the age, so Rahil is asked about GCSE exams. So some children, they may reach the age of puberty. Now they've got the GCSEs in the middle of Ramadan. I think most of them will be starting just at the end of Ramadan anyway, the GCSEs. Will the performance really be affected by keeping long fasts? Really, the only time they'll be doing those exams are in the morning time. Okay, so if they started fasting at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, it won't have been a long time when they've been into the fast. So will the performance really be affected by keeping those fasts or not? Allahu A'lam. I don't really see that happening. But it's not an excuse for them not to fast during the exam period. This is not an excuse to miss the fast. And do qada of the exam. So it needs to be investigated. What is the person going to lose out on by performing the fasting during their GCSEs? Okay, it's difficult to measure that now. Is it going to affect them getting a C or a B? Will it really make much difference in the grand scheme of things in their life? All of it needs to be investigated. But I don't see it because most of the exams are in the morning, so I can't see how the fast is going to affect. If the exams were, at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, towards the end of the fast, then I could understand. But here, I don't see how the GCSEs are going to be affected by the fast. Wallahu a'lam. So question here is what zikr should be repeated more often in Ramadan? It's a good question. So Sayyidah Aisha, she mentions that the Messenger of Allah told her to repeat this dua in Ramadan. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Oh Allah, you are surely the pardoning, the one who pardons often, and you love to pardon, so pardon me. Okay, so this is the best dhikr that you can repeat in Ramadan. I keep that on your tongue, that dua. We do it after every prayer. I do it after every Taraweeh. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his pardon. Then the Quran, of course, connecting to the Quran is very, very important in the month of Ramadan. So trying to understand the meanings of the Quran, not just racing through the Quran, which brings us on to the next question. Should we be trying to finish reading the whole Quran in Ramadan? So the point, is not to race through the recitation of the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights the fact that the Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan. Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. The month of Ramadan. The only time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Ramadan is in this verse in the Quran. So Allah says the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed. So the scholar said that the Quran was revealed from the Lawh al-Mahfuz, from the preserved tablet, to the lowest heaven in the month of Ramadan. So that happened in the month of Ramadan, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights this fact. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Quran, Hudan linnas, said it's a guidance for people, it's a guidance for mankind. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ, and it's clear lessons from guidance and a criteria between right and wrong. So we can't understand that guidance, and we can't take those clear lessons from the Quran, and we can't understand how it judges between right and wrong unless we try to understand the Quran. Okay, so instead of trying to race through the Quran in Arabic, where we're not understanding much of any of the Quran, that focus should be in trying to understand the meanings of the Quran in Ramadan. Okay, it's more important to recite in English so that we can understand the Quran, and get through that in Ramadan, than just merely reciting the Arabic. Mostly in Taraweeh, people will have listened to the Arabic recitation anyway. Yeah, with GCSE's revision process, I don't see how fasting is gonna actually affect that. Okay, if they were going to Taraweeh, they don't have to go to Taraweeh. They can use that time to revise instead. Most of them are going to be up all night anyway, so they can eat at that time. When they've done the exams, they can come home, they can get some rest. And I don't see how fasting is gonna make any difference to that. Yeah, we spoke about this crazy insistence from some masajid of reciting the whole Quran and making it difficult for people. We spoke about it at the beginning of this broadcast. We mentioned that the jurists, they actually said that it's better not to recite the full Quran in Taraweeh. If people are going to be put off from coming to the masjid, then the Imam, he should just recite short surahs. Yeah, some of the companions, like Ibn Umar, you know, they would read Taraweeh at home as well. So some of the companions, they would do that as well. And then the reference to completing the whole Quran is the companions used to do that. Companions would complete the whole Quran in Taraweeh in Ramadan. So that's good to do, but it's not obligatory for us to do, and especially when the nights are short, like it is here in the summer. There's hardly any time. So if you do long Taraweeh, Isha, Maghrib, and Iftar, and by the time all that's finished, it's time for you to have your Sahri and pray Fajr again. Then the person needs to go to work in the morning. It becomes too long and overburdening for the person. Allahu A'lam, why ulama are saying that missing Taraweeh is sinful. They shouldn't be saying that. So the last few questions here: what actions are more favoured in Ramadan? It's the last two questions. So the most favoured actions in Ramadan, obviously reciting the Quran. Number 2 is sadaqah. We forget about the importance of sadaqah in Ramadan, and the Prophet ﷺ, he would be more generous in Ramadan than any other month of the year. So sadaqah, very important actions in Ramadan. If you can go on Umrah as well in Ramadan, that's something good as well. A very blessed action. Having concern for others. Ramadan, one of the things about Ramadan, it raises our awareness and our concern for those who are less needy. So checking on your neighbours, visiting relatives, all of these blessed acts we can do in the month of Ramadan, especially giving sadaqah. So what is the reason for free witr being read behind the Imam rather than by yourself like we normally do in Isha? So in Ramadan, usually we pray witr behind the Imam after the Taraweeh prayers. That was the sunnah of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So they would pray witr after the Taraweeh behind the Imam. If somebody wants to pray witr at home, that's fine as well. That's okay. They don't have to pray witr behind the Imam in Ramadan. So they can pray witr at home. That's perfectly fine as well. But the ulama differed about what is better. Is it better to pray witr in the last third of the night alone, or is it better to pray witr with the Imam? So there's a discussion around that. No. Yes, GCSEs, nobody's going to lose out, anything massive in relation to GCSEs, just because of fasting. Okay. Maybe a few grades, he might, if he's lapse of concentration, if that, it might even make me better, actually. Sometimes the fasting can improve the person's concentration as well, rather than having a full stomach. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Inshallah, so we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us in this upcoming month of Ramadan, accept all of our prayers, all of our fasting, all of our charity, all of our recitation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assist us in lowering the gaze and fasting and standing in prayer and recitation of his book. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, all of our families, and all of our relatives and our neighbours, inshallah ta'ala, and rectify the Muslim Ummah, inshallah, by the blessing of this month of Ramadan. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.